So this is my class on re-imaging the pastoral. It's set up to be a follow-up lesson after reading Shakespeare's As You Like It. For the curricular area, it's obviously English language arts. I intended for about 10th grade, I think. And the unit length, I have 1 to 2 weeks, and it's going to vary depending on how long each day the class meets, how many times a week, students' access to technology, and how many classes will have to devote to lab time versus how much can they do on their own, things like that. So I'd say about 1 to 2 weeks, 2 weeks at the top. For essential questions or objectives, since students will be reading As You Like It before they begin this project, students will understand how pastoral imagery is used in that text and to what purpose. Some questions might be, what did pastoral mean in Shakespeare's time compared to how might it look today? And that's kind of what they'll be digging into. So students will be using technology to create a multimedia representation of what pastoral means to them in the 21st century. And I want them to explore how can pictures, drawings, audio, video capture the same information as text. And students will also explore diverse perspectives, those of their peers and of poets and writers like Shakespeare, to see how personal history can individualize shared experiences. For learner outcomes, I think students will read and understand Shakespeare's use of setting in As You Like It within the context of 17th, 18th century, the Industrial Revolution in England. And they'll be able to translate the feeling and intent of the pastoral into a 21st century sort of digital or post-digital setting using images, video, and sound. And they'll present their creation in a shareable digital format such as Prezi, Adobe Spark, or Google Slides. And they'll translate a classmate's understanding of the pastoral into text, such as a short piece of prose, a sonnet, blank verse, anything they really want to with words. And finally, they'll reflect on how their own imagery was interpreted. Was it received as they intended? Did they learn anything new about their own creation by seeing it through someone else's eyes? For the ISTE standards for students, I think it covers a decent amount, particularly the creative communicator, as students will select the presentation medium that best suits their own goals, whether it be Prezi or Adobe Spark, or maybe even something I can't even think of, some sort of video program. And they will communicate these ideas without words using only digital media such as videos, photos, and sound files. There'll be a knowledge constructor, as students will need to curate images, videos, and sounds from the internet or the world around them to create their project to convey a cohesive vision to another student. And innovative designer, students will need to use a variety of technologies, both to gather and to create and present their projects. So they'll be using search engines or archival tools, presentation programs, photo editing programs, whatever they really feel they need to do to get it done. The project is highly open to their own interpretation, and I think it really encourages their own intellectual exploration, but it also allows people to work within their own comfort zone if they don't feel they can push that far. For a lesson or unit outline, for an anticipatory set, as I said, the lesson will occur as a follow-up to reading Shakespeare's As You Like It. So students will have already been exposed to the notion of pastoral, and as they're reading, they'll be asked to record words or objects used to describe the pastoral setting to sort of create a guideline for their projects, to really get a feel for what it means. And we will also discuss various poets, English poets, who have also used pastoral imagery, such as William Wordsworth, to sort of get a feel for it. And then beginning the sort of follow-up lesson, as a pre-assessment, students will be asked to go to a website like poetryfoundation.org, which is just this huge poetry search engine where you can get biographical information and a large selection of poems by various authors, to find an example of pastoral imagery to discuss in class. And here students should feel free to use Google or whatever to search pastoral poem or anything like that. They don't have to be able to discover it on their own by recognizing what it is, but they can use whatever tools they need to find an example. And at the very least, this will get them thinking about the topic and to help those who might not yet have a firm grasp on it by showing multiple usages, a lot of different examples. And then these selections will be discussed in small groups in class so that even if a student is really struggling, they can at least listen to other students talk about it and sort of build up their own understanding that way. And then students will be given the assignment to create their own interpretation of pastoral without words using photos, videos, and audio. And I think this is really important to sort of push them, and this is where the digital media really comes in, to push them to not just write, but to sort of create a virtual experience. So then lab time will be given in class as needed, so that students can ask for help in trying to figure out how to locate and select their digital artifacts. And the teacher will be present, or will present several tools like Adobe Spark and Google Slides, Prezi, to ensure that all students, regardless of previous exposure, are familiar with at least 2 or 3 different options for a presentation so that they have as much choice as anyone else. And then depending on access to technology, will either need more lab days or this can be homework assignment. Students will assemble their artifacts into a single presentation that they think captures what the pastoral means in the digital age, in the 21st century. They will then switch projects with another student, and this can be done either anonymously or in the small groups used previously for discussion, really depending on how big the class is, how comfortable the students are with each other. You can even give them the option, take a vote on it, what they would like to do. And then they will write a short translation in words of how they interpret the virtual representation of a modern pastoral. This should be no longer than a page. It can be written in any format as long as it's only text. So again, this could be like a sonnet. It could be a couple paragraphs of prose. It could just be blank verse. It could be a list of words, anything that really captures the feeling, but it should be about a page or equivalent. And I found a sort of visual poetry presentation on Prezi that sort of captures what I envisioned for the initial part of the assignment, the visual representation, as long as you pretend that the poem isn't written out at the bottom. So once this loads, we'll just go through it quick. It's kind of a neat little presentation. So just the way that even the images are perfect for the topic, that it sort of creates a variety of images, a lot of flowers here is for this person's vision. You can tell a countryside. And I think the Prezi really sort of the way it jumps around and moves, really it would be good for this project. So this sort of thing is what I envision them producing for the initial part, the visual audio presentation, and they can take it any way they want. And then for the post-assessment, students will read the peer, they'll get their own project back and they'll get the translation of it. And they'll read this interpretation of their project and write a short reflection, 2 to 3 pages. This is probably good over a weekend or give them a few days to do this at home. 2 to 3 pages on both creating their own project and the intended versus actual reception by their peer. Was it received the way they thought it would? Did their peer experience their creation in a way that was unexpected or different from them, or even the same? And what might have contributed to these things? These are different things they can write in their reflection. And this is a good way to sort of branch out to another lesson if you're kind of tying this into sort of maybe an AP writing class or even just a basic short essay. If you could tailor this post-assessment to the level of your class, you could do a basic 5-paragraph essay or sort of this longer reflection that I have here. It's really up to the teacher and the needs of their class. And for the SAMR reflection, I think this unit clearly fits into the redefinition level of the SAMR model. Students will use digital media tools such as audio and video recordings, photographs, digital art, maybe even archival research to create a virtual experience, and that's really something that couldn't happen before, of what pastoral means to them. Being able to take images and audio and video and combine them like this and share it with someone is, I think, something unique to this new digital era we're in. And then they'll be able to share this creation with another student who will then put it into this sort of analog writing. The assignment is intentionally left open to allow a wide variety of media usage and presentation methods. I really want to spark the students' own creativity in this and not give them too much guiding. But it can be sort of narrowed in depending on your students' needs. The way I have it structured allows for students to choose both the format they're comfortable with and one that works best to convey their ideas. But if you have students with a lower level of exposure to technology or who aren't as comfortable using it, you can sort of assign a specific presentation method like Adobe Spark or Prezi. You can assign a certain amount of pictures or images or sounds that should be used, a certain length. So really you can dial it in as open or as tightly as you want. And I think it could be a really interesting lesson. Thank you.